You asked for it. You got it, people. We've heard people say all week, who's looking good in training? What's been going on there under the Twin Spires at Churchill Downs? Well, I just got here, as you can see, PTF in the Galt House Hotel in downtown Louisville. So what we did is we reached out to a man who was a big part of the In the Money Plus coverage last year. This year, he couldn't do that. You know why? Because he's going to be on TV at Churchill Downs. This is a man I've had the pleasure of knowing for several years, and maybe even was able to give him a little bit of a push to get into the racing industry. I'm sure he'll blame me for that someday if he hasn't already. I speak of Kevin Kilroy. Kevin, what's up, buddy?
PTF, you're one of the most wanted men in my family. Who put me in this position? Why am I doing this? No, it's somehow it's all worked out, man. I mean, it's trusted my luck. You know, the fours to begin with, and then just taking a swing. But things have been working out great.
For those that don't know, Kevin did once famously qualify for the National Horseplayers Championship, as they call it these days, by playing all the fours in an online handicapping contest. We have never let him hear the end of it, and now it's the kind of thing he sort of M&Ms it. He brings it up first, so I can't make fun of him for it. Probably wise. Kevin, give us some of the headlines for you about what's been going on this week. Set the scene for us. What's it been like this week at Churchill Downs?
Yeah, it's been just so different than last year. Last year it was just all sorts of rumors just sort of circling. The backside was just a buzz with horses that might be being scratched, having issues going on, little hiccups, as we it's well documented. So it's been calmer, which is great, right? You want these horses to be doing well. You want them to give their best shot for their barns. So it's been fantastic. There's been some clear standouts in terms of the morning buzz horses, which you know how these things go, Pete. Like sometimes that's something you want to take to the bank. Sometimes that's going to offer you value. So keep that stuff in mind. It just adds that dimension to your PPs, but also can maybe show you some spotlights to take a swing against.
Well, that's the place we're going to start. These buzz horses, year in, year out, you hear them, and a lot of times they pay off. And sometimes it's a horse at the lower end of the odds spectrum. Orb was that horse. Animal Kingdom was that horse. Going back, Mandaloon was one of those horses a couple of years ago. It didn't really translate to the betting market. Hey, didn't actually end up helping us in the betting market, but he was eventually named the winner of the race. Yeah, you talked about last year and all the buzz negative around Forte, who was ultimately scratched the morning of the race. But the first big question, who has looked the best? Who are the talking horses this year under the Twin Spires?
Yeah, the top of that list is Catching Freedom. He's a horse that I'm, very familiar with from spending the winter at fairgrounds and just sort of, watching him and really liking him throughout, not only in the mornings or not in the mornings necessarily at all, but in the afternoons. Just really a good start, handy-hearted horse. So he's always looked second tier in the mornings, gotten outworked and just really hasn't touted himself very well. And that started to shift ahead of that Louisiana Derby, and we saw the result there, getting the win. He's been very much that same horse in his moves in the morning, which, still aren't the ones that are jaw-dropping, but just in the way that he carries himself. He just has a different sort of confidence out there. His neck is bowed and in a way that you don't always see from Cox horses. Or usually what I notice about them is they're very professional. I always call them assassins out there on the track in the mornings. And Catching Freedom, he's showing off for us. He's got his energy up. So he's showing me that he's moving forward in a really nice way.
That's great info. Good to hear that he's impressing. I don't know what's going to happen in terms of the betting market. Let me ask you directly about the favorite. I haven't been out there like you have. You've been doing a great job with your colleagues covering the works. In fact, you're going to have more great coverage if you're watching this right when it airs. Still covering the mornings at Churchill Downs. Want you to tell people a little bit about that project, because people can find that stuff, that great content elsewhere on YouTube. But the one that I saw that had my jaw on the floor was our presumptive favorite, Fierceness. I just thought he could not have looked better heading into this race. I'd be even more excited about it if I hadn't also thought he was impressive heading into the Holy Bull. But if he was impressive heading into the Holy Bull, I thought, frankly, he was jaw-dropping heading into the Kentucky Derby. Now, this horse I like. I've talked about him extensively. Maybe you could accuse me of talking with my pocket a little bit here. But what did you think of Fierceness and how he looked specifically this week?
What price did you get, Pete? What would you do?
I'm just betting in the pools.
Okay. Yeah. No, he's my top pick in here. That was sensational move. We talk often about not just what they're stopping the clock in terms of going half a mile, going 5 furlongs, but how much energy they have left, in the tanks in terms of how they're finishing up. Gallop out, finish up. It was as deep as I saw. Between Fierceness and then Tarifa and Jinjin went past the track kitchen. And that's the sort of the high water mark, right? Where you just want to see a horse be able to do that. And then that they've got more than just a quick move, through that 5 furlong or whatever they might be breezing. So it looked fantastic. He's interesting, though, because he just is such an efficient mover. You might watch him and think that he maybe looks a little sore, a little tight. He just has such an efficient move when he's galloping lightly around the track or just sort of making his way out there. But just everything I'm hearing about him and I'm watching myself is he's just a professional, a gentleman, well behaved. He's got his job figured out. He's got his mind completely on running. Maybe I think could be even the best case scenario than showing off and touting yourself and trying to prove you're the alpha in various ways with high energy sort of stuff. So, Fierceness looks great. He looks fantastic. And that move was sensational.
Got to ask you about the Chad Brown pair. Obviously, Sierra Leone has so much wagering attention. I like the way he looked the other day. But domestic product, the other under the radar Chad Brown, he's gotten some love from some people. Duke Matisse on our Pro Player Roundtable. That's audio only content from In the Money Media. And if you want to get everything we're doing, you're going to want to check out our audio stuff as well. In the Money Players podcast, wherever you get your pods, if you want to hear what professional players Duke and Sean Borman have to say. But I thought it was interesting that Duke mentioned that he's really liked the way that domestic product is looked. What have you thought of the Chad Brown pair?
Yeah, Sierra Leone, what a cool horse. What a neat guy to hang out with and look at and witness. He's got just something in his eye. He's just a really neat mover. And it's interesting with him, from talking with I think it was Red Route 1. I was talking to Asmussen, about gun runners, right? And he was telling me, because I was watching the sort of lead changes switch back and forth. And he's like, that's what Gun Runner did when he got near other horses. He switched leads, and you see it a lot in Gun Runners, and you see it with Sierra Leone. So that's sort of like an interesting thing to think about. Is he green coming down that stretch like we saw in the Bluegrass and his other runs, or is that just sort of part of his makeup? I think it's part of his makeup. I think it could cause a little bit of issues, but he's been looking fantastic. And, domestic product, I think this is where Chad Brown's going to shine, right? He just hasn't had quite that success in terms of, looking at Jerry Brown's work with Thorograph. He's showing us how we haven't seen a Chad Brown horse move up, run a new top in the Derby. But this is Chad Brown's specialty, right? Having that long layoff, training up to, not long layoff, but training up to the race as opposed to getting another race in. He's bigger than Sierra Leone. He's a huge guy. I think he should have no problem getting through some traffic and coming late. I bet the designs are to try to get a piece.
Maybe a live long shot there from Kevin. Now, your role is a little different this year. Last year, you could be, behind our paywall, brutally honest about everything you were seeing. Not saying you're not being honest about things, but being part of the broadcast team, maybe you have to answer this next question carefully, and I don't blame you if you do. But is there anybody who you've lessened your own personal wagering interest in based on what you've seen this week? I'll ask it that way. It's a little gentler.
Yeah, no, I don't mind. Yeah, absolutely. Dornoch is one that everything I've seen and all I've heard is one that I don't think we're going to see that move forward. Has been running kind of the same race in terms of figures, but I would fade Dornoch. If you like the Gargan Barn, I think Danny, he's got 2 good ones in there. They've been working sharp, and Society Man, I think, would be the one that you might want to consider in terms of those. Looking at my list here, Just Steel, is one that there's a lot of buzz about with that 1 mile move. And everybody was like, all right, he can get the distance. He's fit. That recent work, we saw the rider come up off of him right across the line, really had nothing left. I think we've seen the best of Just Steel. So I'm not gonna use that one at all. Those are the 2, I think, that have the biggest knocks from what I've been seeing and hearing on the backside.
Anything else that you've noticed that's just a difference, positive or negative, from the horses you saw this winter at Fairgrounds? You mentioned a big positive for Catching Freedom. Any other thoughts on horses that you're most familiar with?
Anna Marie, I mean, always, been highly regarded, right? And working with the best in the Beckman barn, was working with Drip week in and week out. That big maiden winner who had a little setback, but he's going to be coming back to us. soon. Always been outworked, recently down there by a goo. He's a relaxed guy, and that wasn't, they weren't trying to get him to go too sharp. Not, this last work here at Churchill, that was the best I've seen from him. Sharp, into it, moving really well, and really putting it to a goo. I think he's also carrying himself. His confidence, is sort of energy, his playfulness is showing a little bit more than what I saw, what I noticed in the mornings, even just in his gallops over the winter. So I think Anna Marie's coming into a good one.
One thing you did last year in the write-ups you did for us was give selections. I think that's the time of the show we're at. Give me, and with an emphasis on what you've seen on the workouts. If I held your feet to the fire for a top 3 in this year's Derby and this year's Oaks, and I didn't really prep you for this, so I'll preamble for another second here, give you a chance to find it in your notes. What would you say? You can take it in either order: Oaks Derby or Derby Oaks.
Fierceness is for me a absolute key on top single horse. I think you've got to choose one or the other. I think Sierra Leone and Fierceness are both doing really well, but I think he's just one that I trust, and seeing all the positive stuff from. I don't need my notes. I've got this stuff in my head. I was just writing out all my structure. It's all about structure, how you're going to find that value, how you're going to, skinny up your tickets, because you can go deep. I like the Super Vecta. I like it's a good pool to play into. I think Stronghold, I think he's really impressed me. I think he's moving well. I also love the heart that he showed winning that Santa Anita Derby, and his move recently was fantastic. Talamo said he's just really notices, obviously, this 2 to 3 year old, but much more horse between his legs. And then, Catching Freedom is definitely one I want to use underneath Anna Marie as well. There's one other, Peter. Maybe I do need my notes. Who is it? Who is it? I'll say something about Endlessly. I'm curious about him because obviously the narrative is there in terms of him not liking dirt. Everybody knows it. And I think will be a big price because of it. But in terms of just watching a horse come on, I wasn't watching it before, but watching him in the mornings leading up to this, he feels happy. He is loving life out there. You can just see it. He's just, he's probably as good as you could see a horse moving out there and loving his job. But you can still see that little tentativeness, he's still thinking, if you've got maybe 10% of your mind on what you're running on, as opposed to 100% just on your run, that can be a problem, but still happiness definitely translates to big moves. So he might just overcome his aversion to a dirt track.
Interesting. Another one maybe to throw in there underneath in your wagers under Fierceness. Give us a quick top 3 for the Oaks and we'll let you get out of here.
Yeah. Torpedo Anna, boom. Easy, great setup, great post. She looks like a dancer out there. She's fantastic. She's doing so well. Just FYI, I think is one that is Kyler Bay's eye. It's a big buzz horse for the Oaks. And then Power Squeeze. She's really impressed me in the mornings. I think she'll have some pace to run at. Looks like early movement in the market is showing that's not too much value in that Power Squeeze, but one that you want to look at if that price goes up a little bit.
Great stuff. We're going to have you on for another free video brought to you by our friends at the KTDF to talk about Thurby. People can look for that elsewhere, and just loads of content. Best thing to do to make sure you get it all is to subscribe to the In the Money Media channel. I also encourage you to subscribe to In the Money Players podcast, wherever you get your podcasts, so you don't miss an episode. Give us your thoughts. Give us your Derby top 3 in the comments. We would love to hear for you. For Kevin, I'm PTF. Make sure to check out our YouTube channel for more great content.